we have our new file ready, we can now start adding some designs into that. And in order to do that, we first need a sort of clean sheet of paper on which to work, and that is called the artboard. So if you press the letter A on your keyboard, you will enter the frame mode or the artboard mode where you can create a new artboard. On the right side, you see there are some defaults that will pop up that you can use in order to create your artboard. For example, if you click iPhone 8, you will see there's immediately a size iPhone 8 artboard on your screen. For now, let's delete this and create one of our own dimensions. So let's just click and drag until we have a nicely sized artboard. A good thing to do right away is to rename the artboard to what you are going to make. So for this one, we can double click on the title of the artboard. As you can see, the text is now selected here. You can also press Command R or Control R in order to get into rename mode. So for now, let's just call it test. It doesn't really matter what you call it, but it's good for you to know that these options are there. Next, what we are going to do, we're going to put some very basic shapes on top of that. So let's get to the shape tool, choose rectangle, and click and drag in order to make this rectangle appear on the screen. Let's also add a little ellipse here and click and drag. And make sure to do it on the right side of the rectangle, otherwise you will miss what I'm going to point out. So you'll see that when you click and drag, it becomes sort of elliptic. And what we want it to be perfectly circular. So we hold the Shift key while we click and drag, and then we let go, and then we have a perfectly dimensioned circle. These shapes can be given different properties. So on the right side, there's a property area where you can see I now have the circle selected, and the circle is 128 by 128 pixels. Let's do some basic settings for now. So let's change the color. So as we see here, we can set the color to, for example, red. We can drag the hue slider around here and make it green. If we click outside of this area or click on the cross, the settings will be applied, and we can go change the color for our rectangle. What we can do here, for example, is set the color, but not choose a solid color, but choose a linear gradient, which usually makes scenes more appealing. So if we click here, we can now choose radial or linear. So let's go with linear for now. And as you can see, a gradient is immediately applied. We can change all the different steps within that gradient. So we can add steps in between and say here it should be red, and here, for example, it should be more yellowish. So that's how we can create this gradient up there. As you can see, it like fades into this transparent matter. That happens because at the end here, we have one set to 0% transparency. It's also being auto adjusted for the other one. So make sure if you're making a gradient that you always have the right transparency set for your image. Then what we can do with these shapes, we can align them together. So if we click on the rectangle that we made, for example, we can now use the alignment tools at the top in order to align them. So we can left align this one, center, right, top, middle, or bottom. For now, let's do a center and center. So we have a perfectly aligned rectangle there. For the circle, we will do the same. We will also align it to the center. And now we have a nice sort of weird flag going on here. Now what we're going to do some very basic Boolean operations, which means that we are going to combine these two shapes. So now we have just a circle selected, and if we hold the Shift key and click on the rectangle, you will see that we now have both layers selected, as you can see here, and also a new option appeared on the top right here. These are the Boolean operations, and this allows us to combine different shapes into a new shape. So for now, let's go through them quickly. So we have union, which basically means these shapes will be put together into one new big shape. Subtract, which means the layer on top will be removed from the layer on the bottom. Intersect, which means the intersection will be kept. And exclude, which means the intersection will be excluded. So for now, let's choose subtract. And we'll see that the circle has been removed. Same goes for the color, because it's been removed from the rectangle, of course. And we now have a new shape that we can use in our design. On top of that, we can still access the original circle that was below that. So if we go to our layers panel on the left and we open the layer here, we'll see that the circle is still here. So if we click the circle and move the circle around, we can still edit this shape while keeping the single layer nature of the Boolean operated shape. So we can still move this around. That is a very powerful feature to know, and you will be working with this a lot, I think, in the future.